2 weeks ago, I made the hardest rage game ever. Now, so even more people can suffer, I'm gonna turn it into a mobile game. And how about I only get 24 hours to do it? Alright, the current time is 7:25. Let's get started. Because I have my priorities straight, I first made a particle effect for when the blob sticks to something. Yeah, I think we need some more particles. Maybe a few more. There we go. Oh yeah, if you don't know, Stick With It is a game where you control this squishy blob guy that can stick to stuff. And you have to time this moving arrow to jump in a certain direction. The goal is to get to the top of the map, but a small mistake can force you to start over. And yeah.
No, are you? Trying my absolute best.
This might actually be the hardest game ever. I don't think anyone's actually completed it, and most people don't even get past this second level. But I do want the game to be slightly fun to play, so here's my plan for this mobile version. We'll have 2 difficulty modes. The game as it currently is will be called Impossible Mode, and then I'll add in an easier version with checkpoints and a slower arrow called Hard Mode. Alright, let's get this implemented. I first made a checkpoint object with a trigger collider. Then I added on a script that detects when something intersects with the trigger, which will save the player's progress. After placing checkpoints around the map and throwing together some more code, we've got a working checkpoint system. In the last video, I made some spike objects that would pop the blob and force you to restart, but then I decided to remove them from the game. I don't think the spikes really fit the game too well. But now that there are checkpoints in the game, I think it's safe to bring the spikes back. There we go. Now if you're in hard mode and miss a jump, instead of falling to a lower level, you'll just hit some spikes and can reset to the last checkpoint. Wow, we're actually making pretty good progress so far. I think I'll actually be Wait, do you hear that? When actually building the game and running it on my phone, it had a lot of issues. First up, it takes about 10 seconds to load the game after pressing the play button, and the ground doesn't load, apparently. So I'll need to track down what is causing this. So after like an hour of debugging, I finally tracked down what was causing the long load time. It turns out trying to load in 60 megabytes worth of music tracks is pretty slow. So for now I just removed the music, and later I'll probably try to add in some smaller compressed versions of the tracks. Alright, now the game loads fine, but it's only running at 30 frames per second. And yeah, I'm not actually this bad at the game, it's just the low frame is just messing me up, okay? After another hour and a half of optimizations, and questioning why I made this a 24-hour challenge, the game is finally running at a smooth 60 frames per second, which you can clearly see in this 30 FPS recording. Okay, now hopefully we can get back to making actual progress. Because the player can now actually die, we're going to need an end screen with a button that lets you restart at the most recent checkpoint. If you're impatient like me and don't want to wait for the end screen animation, I also added a smaller checkpoint button in the corner, so you can just restart whenever. Next, I worked on making a more mobile-friendly title screen and added in a settings menu. And because I like torturing myself, I did some more optimizations. Alright, every mobile game needs a monetization strategy. Here's my plan. Players might get angry when they miss a jump because they have to restart at the last checkpoint. So what I'll do is include a button that lets you undo the last move if you watch an ad. So yeah, it's just monetizing players' frustration. So I got to work implementing the ability to roll back to the last position. Here's what I eventually came up with. We've got a ghost soft body that is a copy of the original, but without the texture. Every time you jump, the exact configuration of the soft body, including the positions of each component and the joints that connect them to the platform, are copied and applied to the ghost. If you want to undo a move, the reverse process is applied, setting the player's soft body to the exact configuration of the ghost soft body. With this working, I made an undo button and a little watch ad confirmation window, just so you don't play an ad by mistake. And finally, I created an ad manager script and started implementing Unity ads. This should probably be a pretty straightforward process, but because my code never, works, it ended up taking a while. Next, I completely revamped the visuals for the checkpoint by changing it from a circle to a spinning circle. At this point, I'd put about 15 hours of work in and felt like I was gonna die, so I decided to call it a day. The next morning, I got up at about 6 to finish things up. I first got the settings menu actually working, so you can set the difficulty mode and checkpoint and turn sound on or off. Cool. But changing the difficulty mode doesn't actually do anything right now. So I wrote a few quick pieces of code that will disable checkpoints and spikes and adjust the arrow speed if impossible mode is selected. And with just 1 minute remaining, I pressed build. So yeah, somehow I finished the mobile version in just 24 hours. Well, if you ignore all the bugs that I would later find and have to fix. Is that everything? Oh yeah, we actually have to publish the game. Okay. Let's get started with the Android version. It's actually pretty easy. You just create a new app in the Play Developer Console, make a few promotional images, fill out some metadata, then just sign your app with a key store, whatever that is, and upload the APK. Oh yeah, and spend like an hour trying to resolve all the errors and warnings that Google Play throws at you. But after getting all that fixed, I submitted the build, which was approved in a few hours. Unfortunately, I was unable to get the app working on iOS. Just kidding. Here it is running on the very latest iPhone 6. But the process for Apple is actually a little bit more involved than for Android. So Unity can't directly build an iPhone app that you can run. Instead, it exports an Xcode project. Xcode is Apple's IDE, which will only run on a Mac. So I just have this 2012 Mac Mini, which is extremely slow and can't even run the most recent Mac OS. But this is fine because its sole purpose is to compile iOS apps, which, as far as I can tell, is the only reason someone would actually want to own a Mac. Also, there are restricted areas where you can't put buttons on iPhones with these weird screen shapes. To deal with this, I found out about this cool device simulator package in Unity and grabbed this asset that adjusts your UI to fit the safe areas. To actually publish on the App Store, you need to have an Apple developer account. This is the App Store Connect portal, which is where you manage all your apps and stuff. Finally, I uploaded the build, filled out the boring metadata stuff, and submitted the app for review. Alright, it's been 24 hours, and the app has been approved. So there it is, a mobile game. Very cool. Download links are in the description if you want to try it, or you can save yourself some frustration and not download it.